Good morning, Tina Mitchell here, your local mortgage expert and your host of Coffee with the Superstar. My show is with real estate agents, for real estate agents. I interview the best of the best in the industry so you can hear what they're doing and how they're doing it. And each week I travel to my superstar's office to invite you behind the scenes of their business. And I'm so very excited for my superstar this morning. Debbie, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you, and thank you for my Starbucks.
Yeah, cheers to our company, the Superstar. Exactly. So let me share a little bit about Debbie. She is with RE/MAX, Northwest Realtors. Debbie Walter and team are truly committed to providing exceptional expertise and professional reputation to her valued clients. Throughout her insightful counsel and comprehensive knowledge and acquisition of marketing and residential real estate opportunities, Debbie's experience or expertise has helped her sell on an average 25 to 50 homes a year, averaging around 25 million worth of inventory each year. And again, this show is really for the best of the best based on the production that they're doing in the local market. Debbie distinguishes herself by executing very deliberate strategies and skillful measures that help achieve impressive results. So again, Debbie, I'm just really happy to have you here, and you have so much wealth of information and passion around the industry to share with our real estate agents and any clients that are listening today. So thank you again very much.
Well, thank you. Pleasure to be here.
And Debbie, the first question I always like to ask is, what do you contribute your success to? What is your magic?
Well, that's the beauty about this business, is you can have so many different personality types, so many backgrounds. I think with my background starting in pharmaceutical sales that I did for 14 years, I was very entrepreneurial in spirit. Nobody told me to get up at a certain time or to work certain hours. And so it built in that hard work ethic and that willingness to make that one extra call or that one extra visit to a doctor's office, or really to get behind the gatekeeper to get to the ultimate person you're trying to get to, the physician. So when I transferred over into real estate, it really was just kind of a natural morphing into that entrepreneurial business.
Yeah, and that's so great, because a lot of us have came from other sales or service level, and to really be able, as Debbie said, it's all about hard work. If you want to have a successful business, you have to do the hard work. You've got to do the grind, and you have to really love what you're doing as well, so that you are willing to put in those long hours. I also like how Debbie had mentioned with their pharmaceuticals sales and really getting to the gatekeeper. And in real estate, you may not be getting to the gatekeeper as much. In mortgage, you might a little bit more getting to the gatekeeper. But in real estate, how that can transition is to really finding those the clients and the people that are going to be able to support your business the best. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And I think also you do have gatekeepers in real estate, because you have maybe one spouse that is the first referral source, that's the first line of contact, and you're trying to get to the ultimate team decision makers. If it's a husband and wife, you really want both of them on board in the conversation. And sometimes it's also bringing in a third party that's part of that decision making. I work with a lot of international clients and a lot of different cultures, and in those cultures, a lot of times it might be family that's out of country, it might be family that's out of state, it might be a grandmother that doesn't even speak our language here, but she ultimately maybe has some say into the transaction of real estate. And so getting to the root of who's going to be part of that decision making is really critical early on in the stages.
Yeah, so important. I love that, Debbie. And I hope that you heard a high percentage of our business works with clients that are not that are from out of the country.
Yes.
And you may be listening and having a little bit of fear in that arena because you feel that you might not be able to connect with them on the same level, whereas the reality, I've watched and listened to Debbie and all the behind the scenes that she does to really get to know their culture and to really be able to connect with them on that level and build, again, you talk about the expertise, and it's so important to be able to gain that trust and loyalty through them. And a lot of your business comes from being referred and introduced to new clients from the clients that you've worked with, correct?
Oh, absolutely. 100% of my business is referral and repeat driven.
Yes.
I think that's most superstars. You will find out that we have specific dialogues, specific strategies specific times within a transaction that we really try to insert those conversations about how important it is. I over the years, I've really gotten kind of rid of the word refer, and I've gotten in, I use more the word introduce or connect. And I am very strategic on when I plant those conversations. So it might be at a time when, as a broker, you are solving this major issue. Maybe it's an inspection issue. Maybe it's a multiple offer situation where there's 15 offers and your client is the one that wins. And they're raving about you and they're ready to give you their firstborn. They're so excited that they got their home, or they're so excited that they generated 15 offers on their own home and sold for $25,000, $50,000 more than list price. And they're like, oh my goodness, what can I do to repay you? That's the time when I say, I don't say when, or I don't say if, I say when. So when the next time that you hear one of your coworkers, one of your church people, one of your neighbors speaking about their interest in wanting to buy or sell a home, please pull out your phone, instantly text me or call me, connect me, introduce me to that person, so then I can just start a conversation and I can see how I may be of service to them. And that really helped generate a referral business very quickly when I started talking about introductions and connections. It's much more organic, it's much more natural than refer, heart refer.
I love that. And I hope you listened to some of the things that Debbie said, and I'm going to recap. Her words are very, very strategic when the opportunity presents itself, because the opportunity will, and if is not as strong of a word. And I love too, because I talk about this as well, that when somebody says how awesome you're doing, that is the perfect time to ask for that introduction, instead of what a lot of people say, well, thank you, it's my job. The worst thing that you want to do is discredit all of the hard work that you're doing, because they have no idea what's happening and the level of what's happening behind the scenes to make it a seamless process and to have an offer accepted with 15 offers and all these different things that can come up. And it's the perfect time, by the way, thank you so much for recognizing how hard that I work for you when the opportunity presents itself. And here's the third thing that she mentioned, which is really key into closing that to get the most introductions possible with your existing clients that want to support you. You just need to ask them, is let them know how to do it. Grab your phone right now, text me when that opportunity presents itself. So huge. Love that, Debbie.
You have to coach, and then you also have to lead by example. So one of the things that I do from the very get-go when I have a client, let's say a buyer client, come in and they have not met with a mortgage broker yet, I will then immediately pull out my phone and say, I have a phenomenal lender that I'm going to introduce you to. And I'll say, client, meet Tina. Tina, meet client. And I'll give maybe a little recap either on an email or on a text message, and make sure that all parties have each other's phone numbers. I'll do that also with my inspector, with maybe a contractor. And so by the time that conversation comes up where I'm asking for that introduction or that connection, my clients have also now seen several examples of how I introduce and connect them to others.
That is awesome.
And so then when it's time for me to have that conversation, it's very natural for me to be able to say, just like I introduced you to Tina, and I introduced you to Scott, my inspector, or Sergey, my contractor. The same way, if you could please introduce or connect me that way, it's just so natural, and it allows me to then go forward with that introduction.
I love that. The 3 ways are so important. And I love, you didn't hear Debbie say that, would you like to? Instead, Debbie leaves, which I always talk about, leading as the expert that you are. Only ask questions when you have to ask a question, where they have to make a decision. Because majority of things, they don't want you to ask them what they should do. That's confusing. They want you to tell them, here's the next step. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm doing an email introduction to she didn't ask, would it be okay? If they don't want it, they will let her know.
Absolutely.
So important to lead from that expert advice and that expert stance instead of asking questions. So I love that, Debbie.
Well, I think ultimately consumers are looking for leadership.
They are.
And the mistake that I see too many of my fellow peers make is either when a client is saying, oh my goodness, I'm so appreciative, thank you so much. The broker will say, oh, no big
problem.
deal. That's my job, or no worries. And they just took that whole opportunity, that whole momentum to leverage what they did right in that moment and leverage it to another connection and another introduction.
So true.
And then leading by that leadership is ultimately what our consumers are looking for us for, because even though they might feel that they know real estate, they're in IT. They do IT 50 hours a week. They don't sell homes 50 hours a week like we do.
Yes.
And so that's where we need to come across as the leader in the situation.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So, Debbie, what about a challenge that you've had to face, and how have you overcome that challenge?
I think the biggest challenge in this business is work-life balance.
Yes.
Because when you first start off, you're so hungry, you're so desperate, you've got bills that are and expenses that are accruing every single month. And it does take on average 6 to 8 months for a brand new broker to earn their first paycheck.
Yes.
And so in the meantime, you're writing a lot of checks every month to a lot of other people. So that work-life balance, it took me many, many years to kind of figure that out.
Yes.
If I were to do things over again, probably I would have a team from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Because this business is fast, it is furious. We do have to be an expert at many things.
Yes.
I tell people I'm a priest, I'm a therapist, I'm a marriage counselor, I'm a tax advisor, I'm a stager, I'm a marketer, I'm many, many things.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be, A+ at everything.
Yes.
One of the things that was the biggest relief for me to finally give up many years ago was my taxes. I didn't want to pay a CPA and a bookkeeper. But man, the moment I finally made that decision, I'm like, why did I do this 7 years ago when I first started out?
Yeah.
Because we're not tax experts. The tax laws change every single year. And in the end of the day, the fees that I end up paying a bookkeeper and tax advisor, they more than make up for it in deductions that I would have probably never even taken.
Yes.
So surrounding yourself with a team early on. And it doesn't necessarily mean your team has to be 5 brokers that you're paying large salaries or large incomes to, but your team can be people like your financial advisor, your tax expert, your bookkeeper, maybe a stager that's a helper for you, movers, your lenders, your escrow people. My escrow and title people have been a phenomenal resource and part of my team over the years.
Yeah. And so think also about that emotional stress that's behind things that you don't want to do. So when you can release all of that and stop cleaning your house and doing your yard unless you love to do it. If you love to do it, continue doing it. And if you don't, you have to hire those things out because the emotional stress behind it is costing so much money and resources because you can't be at the best place. Now, I also think that this is an appropriate time to talk, and I'd love to share with the agents that are listening today, Debbie, because Debbie talked about work and balance, and it is very challenging, and especially in the real estate space. And I think, in a way, you were really kind of forced to do things differently than maybe you would be doing today if not for the dynamics with the transition with your dad and what's happening in his life. And, now they own a second home in Palm Desert.
Yes.
And so I'd love for you to share, because I think that there's probably people, and I'm just getting goosebumps right now thinking about it, because I remember back to the conversation that I was having with Debbie when this transition was coming up, and the idea that she literally was going to leave her business for
6 months.
6 months. And she had always been the person that, she has a partner and teammates that help her with her business, but she was always in every aspect of her business. And to completely just leave for 6 months to help with her dad's journey was a really scary thing for her. And I think it turned out to be a blessing in disguise because for your work, because you do things completely different than you ever had before, correct?
Yes, it really was a journey that I can't say enough how shocked I was that it actually worked. So my dad, several years ago, about 5 years ago, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And my kids were young teenagers at that point. And my husband had a job here locally for a nonprofit organization that he's been involved with for over a decade. And so we had this opportunity and a family discussion and a family decision is, hey, my dad is declining. You know, we don't have maybe along many years for him to remember us and to really create memories. My parents, they moved away to Palm Desert, California when they retired about 20 years ago. So back in 2016, we made a family decision to pull the kids out of school here locally. This was in January, so it was mid-school year. I had to make that decision to depart my business for 6 months, not knowing how this was going to really impact our financial future, how it was going to impact the future of my introductions and my connections.
Yes.
But I just kind of morphed a little bit people that I had talked to across the country that had maybe semi-retired. I didn't want to semi-retire. I didn't want to give up control of my clients. I didn't want to introduce my clients to a different broker and just walk away from that hard-earned relationship.
Yes.
So what I did is I just said to myself, hey, I'm going to be gone, but if I need to fly back into town to show a home or to stage a home, I can always, for a couple $100, fly back here to Seattle. We rented out our house. We went down to California. And what so surprised me is I never once had to fly back home. So what I did just from the very first client is I said, you know, I have this phenomenal team. Each person on the team has a very specific skill set and a specific role. My skill sets are in the education and the strategy sessions and the negotiations and the contract writing. And I have another broker on my team who is phenomenal at walking you through the homes, being there at the inspections, you know, being there at escrow. And throughout the entire process, I will be on every single email. If I'm on every single phone call, where we have it on every single text. We do a 3-way text, 3-way conference calls. And I say to them, if for whatever reason I can't physically be beside you at the time that you have made a decision on a specific home, then I'll just hop on FaceTime and I'll be right beside you on FaceTime. So I really kind of embraced this technology, not knowing if it was even going to work. But what so surprised me is that during that 6 months, I sold over 30 homes. And I never once told a client that I wasn't physically here. And not once did a client, this was even more shocking, never once did I have a client say, I never even met you. Because they didn't feel that
They did
lack.
meet you, just not that face-to-face personally.
They didn't get to touch,
they didn't get to touch you.
But they saw me because of FaceTime, on emails, on every text, on all the phone calls they had. They felt my presence, even though I wasn't physically, you know, sitting next to them. So that ended up working out so well that we ended up doing it again the following year in 2017 as my dad was unfortunately progressing, or I would say regressing, like Alzheimer's patients do. We decided to do it a second time for 6 months, and it worked out just as well.
And now they have a second home, and you spend a lot of time there.
I do. About every 2 months, I'm going there for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. And same thing, I'm just able to very smoothly transition between here and there. The only thing that I really can't do is unlock a door. I can't unlock a door if I'm in California. But other than that, I can do everything else.
I love it. So think out of the box, because I always say your perception comes from other people, and you want to remember majority of people say things are not possible, but they're not getting the results. They're not doing the things differently. So find people that are doing, I mean, you heard Debbie, she picked up the phone and she talked with other agents. And so find people that are doing the things that you want to be doing and see how they're doing it. And I love that story. I loved remembering the fear conversation, and I love to see the transition that she didn't miss a beat. And now she is able to continue to do that because she proved to herself that you could. So very huge key takeaway for today. Nothing to do with today, and Debbie's not ready to retire yet, but I also want you to really think about what your business really is worth if you're doing business in volume, because I can see Debbie in her next stage when that time comes that she can, she's going to be able to sell her business. And I've seen agents in the recent that have done this, that have been able to build partnerships and be able to transition their business to someone else and still be profitable in their retirement years. So I think majority of agents have no idea what they really have when they've built something, especially to the level that you have. So
absolutely. I think any broker that has been in the business, let's say 15 plus years, and if they're averaging, 20 homes kind of consistently a year or more,
yes,
that's a very profitable business. By then, you probably have a database and a sphere of individuals that love and trust and would work with you again and introduce and connect you to others that they love and know. And that is a highly profitable, money-making business machine that can be, if you find a junior that you can partner with, another up-and-coming broker that's hungry, that's willing to work hard, that's willing to follow your lead, that's really willing to listen to kind of the methodology that you have in your business. Yes, that's a very marketable business.
Yeah, so true. So Debbie, let's talk about marketing tips, and I'd love for you to share your favorite marketing tip for agents that are looking at taking their business to the next level.
Well, I think when you can market and do it in a way that's natural to you and that kind of falls within your own gifts. I would say that one of my gifts is just naturally, I've been a very good writer since I was a young child. I wrote a real estate column for the local newspapers here in the area for about 10 years. When my husband was the publisher of a local paper, but I ended up doing that for several papers. And so writing is just natural to me. So what I have is, I call it Debbie's 60-second market update that I send out every Saturday. And I get so many brokers and so many of my clients say, I just love reading your weekly little snapshot of the market. How do you write that stuff? Where do you come up with it? And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much content out there. Are you kidding me? There's plenty of content to pull from. And then what I have found that gets the most readership and the most responses is when I write about local employment. So over the last year and a half, every week I'm typically writing something about Google, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, Boeing. I'm writing about not me. I never write about Debbie Walter, #1, and how great I am and how many homes I sell. It's always about the local market, about the local economy, about how many cranes are in the sky. Because then when a client does come to me wanting to talk about their fears of real estate and, I think I want to sell a home, but I don't know, is my home going to be worth enough to sell? Or I want to buy, but is this a good time to buy because I don't want to buy and then my value go down 6 months later? And so because they've been on this little weekly 60-second market update that literally it takes 60 seconds for them to read, and it goes through Constant Contacts. So I pay Constant Contacts, I think it's $120 a year. You can have up to 500 people that it goes out to. And then you can customize it so it's your colors, your logos, your photo, your contact information. And I'm now leading with information. So when that client thinks real estate, they automatically think Debbie Walter. That's a goal.
And it's her brand. So she has picked one thing that she does consistently, something that's personal to her. She's putting her writing touch in it. She knows what people want to know about, which is what's happening with employment and how that's going to affect real estate. And she's in front of them so that they're thinking about her when that opportunity presents themselves. And then she's maximizing that opportunity by asking for the business at the very strategic time. So you don't have to have this big, exorbitant marketing plan. You just need to pick something that's going to work for you and do it consistently to stay in front of your clients, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, I used to do a lot of different things. I would do Christmas parties. I would do Thanksgiving pies. I would do monthly postcards. But I just found that over the years that became more of a drain on me emotionally, physically, financially, and I couldn't really correlate, okay, I provided 100 apple pies over Thanksgiving. I couldn't really correlate that with any direct business. But with the Debbie 60-second market update, absolutely every single week without fail, I will get somebody that responds directly to me with, maybe it's a question, or maybe it's with a connection and an introduction, and the heading will be my subject title of that weekly email. So I know it's because of that consistent weekly email that then it triggers something for them to email me back. And so I can now see that there's a direct correlation. Also, because of constant contacts, I get some phenomenal statistics. I can see that I average somewhere between 35 to 40% open and reading per week. There's really no other marketing tool out there that gives you 35 to 40% readership. I know in more traditional marketing like postcards and flyers, if you can average a 1 to 2% readership, that's considered a successful marketing.
Well, and part of it you have to give credit to you because you're strategically deciding who you're going to send these to, and you've got that relationship with them.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes. Can you see on Constant Contact who's opening them?
Yes.
So that's powerful as well, that you can see behind the scenes who is actually opening that, so you can kind of position yourself at the right time.
Absolutely. And not that I'm going in there every week and looking at 500 names to see who's read it or not. But if I have a client that, let's say, has just recently introduced or connected me to somebody, I might go in there and go, oh, wow, out of the 12 or out of the, 52 emails they got from me this year, because it goes out once a week, out of the 52, they read 40 of them. Okay, so no wonder they are now connecting and introducing me to others, because they're reading quite a few of those weekly emails come across.
Love it. So Debbie, as we wrap up our time, we've got 4 minutes here. Call to action for an agent that's listening today and they want to take that next step. They're motivated and inspired by my conversation with you this morning. What is one thing that they should do right now?
Well, I would say tap into what is your natural gift. What is your natural resource? What is your natural passion? And for me, I also love my dogs. I've had Vizslas for over 20 years. I'm involved in the dog local community. I go to the dog park every day because now she's a puppy and she needs that daily exercise. So I've been able to generate business just from my daily visits to the dog park. And you find that I don't even necessarily know everybody's names. I know all the dog names and I know everything about their dogs. But then you end up having these organic conversations about, oh, what do you do? And you're just naturally able to transfer that into some future business. Also, my relationships through my church, same thing. Every week going to a church where you're forming strong bonds with people. My yoga studio that I go to. So whatever it is that you're into, biking, hiking, whatever it is that you're into, use that as a situation where you can leverage those relationships into business. And if those connections aren't direct business, guess what? They have the ability to connect and introduce you to others that could use your services.
And it helps with that work-life balance too, because generate business at the same time. Yes, I'm a big believer in strategically putting yourself in front of people that most likely will support you, and that's people that are most like you.
Yes.
So when you have a passion with somebody, then you can build that friendship, and when you build that friendship, then the business just naturally follows from there, because they want to really help support you and to help support your life and your business.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of those balance things. You're not doing an activity because you want business from it. It's you're doing that activity because it's fun and you enjoy it, and then the business naturally will come.
But it makes it easier for you to give yourself permission and say, it's okay to go hang out at the dog park.
Absolutely.
Because I'm trying to give an living your life and building relationships and building business through that process as well. So give yourself a break, go have a fun time, and watch your business just really grow and prosper from that. Because we are the best that we can be when we're enjoying ourselves, and we were talking about being authentic to who we are before we started the show this morning, and being authentic with what you want to do and where you're happy spending your time. you know, you like to be out on the court too.
Absolutely. Pickleball rocks.
Pickleball. Yeah, that's what Debbie just said.
Yes,
She's always, this is what a successful real estate agent, she can rock this
Yoga
outfit.
pants.
This is what they expect from her.
Yes.
Debbie, thank you so much again for joining me this morning and just for sharing your love and your passion in the real estate space and being an inspiration and motivation to our listeners this morning.
Well, thank you so much. I adore you, honey.
Adore you too.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you. And thank you guys for being here and watching the Coffee with a Superstar. We'll be here same place or same time, different location. And, you know, get excited. I'll have to have Debbie back because she'd be a lot of fun. We're trying to see how to take this outside of even the office and maybe as the sun's getting better, take a walk around the neighborhood at their listing.
We could
maybe
go to a dog park.
Well, I was going to say we could go to the dog park. We could maybe go kayaking or something. So I'm really excited. We don't have it figured out yet because Victoria's got to do all that work of how to stabilize the camera, but we're looking at some equipment on that, so I'm excited for that. Victoria's going to post my next One Time Your Business 8-week burn is starting in a couple weeks, so a shout out for that. If you don't have your clock hours, it's 15 clock hours certified. Would love to spend a powerful 8 weeks in helping you not just grow your business with a high efficiency, high time management, but the why behind it is so that you can live the life that you want to live. So thank you for being here and enjoy the rest of your week.
Bye.